The fluorescent hum of the lab was relentless that morning, buzzing softly like an unseen heartbeat. Dr. Emily Carter leaned over her workstation, her eyes scanning the latest MRI results with a practiced precision that came from years of deciphering the human brain. But this time, something was wrong. Michael Hayes, 42, recovering from what should have been a routine stroke, had scans that defied all reason. Her breath caught as she saw it. Two entirely distinct patterns of neural activity, pulsing independently, side by side, as if two minds were coexisting within one body. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, and looked again. No mistake, no glitch. The brain in front of her was alive, and it was doing something impossible. The room seemed to close in, the sterile smell of antiseptic sharp against her senses. Emily felt a familiar thrill of discovery, the kind she had chased through countless sleepless nights. But this was different. It wasn't just groundbreaking. It was terrifying. She remembered the calm confidence of her earlier work, the neat lines of neurons, the predictable mapping of thought. But here, predictability had shattered. The MRI screen glowed with a spectral intensity, flickering gently as though the brain itself were aware of her gaze. And then, everything changed. Her mind raced, trying to reconcile what she saw with everything she knew. Could a single brain host two independent streams of consciousness? She had studied cases of split brain patients, dissociative disorders, even rare neurological anomalies. Nothing prepared her for this. Her hands trembled slightly over the keyboard as she pulled up the time-lapse sequences. The patterns weren't random. One side of Michael's brain pulsed with activity in a rhythm almost contemplative, while another sparked in rapid bursts, deliberate and focused. Two minds, or something beyond her understanding, were operating in parallel. Flashbacks crept into her mind. Emily standing in lecture halls, presenting research on memory, cognition, the very essence of what made us human. Each discovery had been a step towards certainty. And now, certainty had evaporated. The professional veneer of control slipped as the weight of the unknown pressed down on her. She felt that strange mixture of awe and dread, that delicious fear she had once sought in labs and journals, now amplified to something almost unbearable. She could see the personal stakes as clearly as the neural activity on the screen. Her reputation, built on decades of precise research, teetered on the edge. This was the kind of anomaly that could either catapult her career into history or leave her questioning everything she thought she knew. She stared at the scan, heart hammering, the sterile hum of the lab filling the silence with a tense rhythm. And yet, even in the panic, she knew she could not turn away. Her reflection in the darkened monitor stared back at her, wide-eyed, incredulous. Somewhere deep inside, a question formed, unspoken but heavy. What does it mean for one mind to coexist with another? And more importantly, what are the ethical boundaries of witnessing such a phenomenon? Her rational brain screamed for restraint, for procedure, for the comforting safety of textbooks and peer-reviewed studies.
Michael walking slowly through sterile hallways with a distant expression. Each visual reinforces the tension between normalcy and the inexplicable. His medical team, though expert and compassionate, wrestled with uncertainty. Subtle shifts in personality, fleeting self-observation, and moments of dissociation defied conventional explanation. Was this a rare anomaly? A glitch in the machinery of the brain? Or something deeper? A glimpse into consciousness itself? Emily Carter watched these details, her fascination intensifying. She knew that Michael's story was more than a medical puzzle. It was a human story of vulnerability, of identity fractured yet still intact, of a man and his family navigating the terrifying unknown. Empathy mixed with scientific curiosity as she considered the implications. If the brain could host two streams of awareness, what did that mean for the very definition of self? And as the suspense built, the audience feels it too. The tension of witnessing a mind caught between science and the inexplicable. The fear, the awe, and the profound mystery of human consciousness. In Michael Hayes, ordinary life had collided with the unimaginable, and every scan, every subtle behavioral anomaly whispered a haunting question. How many minds truly reside within us? And how thin is the veil between one and two, self and other, the known and the unknowable? Night had fallen over the city, but the lab lights burned relentlessly, casting a cold glow across Dr. Emily Carter's exhausted face. She sat alone, the rhythmic chapping of her keyboard echoing in the quiet room, each stroke punctuated by the low hum of the MRI machine still running in the background. Michael Hayes' scans filled her screen, a living puzzle that refused to fit any framework she had ever known. And with each passing hour, her obsession deepened. She could not tear herself away. She had spent her career deciphering the brain's secrets, trusting patterns, rules, and structure. But now, she faced something that defied them all. Emily revisited the scans repeatedly, zooming in on neuron clusters, replaying sequences of activity. One pattern would flare, then fade, as if it were observing itself. Another surged with purpose, calculating, responding, learning. She whispered to herself, sometimes aloud, sometimes into the empty room. "What are you?" She scoured medical literature late into the night, poring over studies of split-brain patients, dissociative disorders, and rare anomalies. Nothing matched what Michael's brain was doing. Each article she read offered tantalizing clues, but ultimately collided with the stark reality of the scan in front of her. A dual consciousness, coexisting, entwined, and inexplicable. Flashbacks swept her mind like an unstoppable tide. Her early career, presenting research on memory and cognition with unshakable confidence. Nights spent analyzing fMRI scans and EEGs, mapping neural pathways with precision. The sense of control she always felt in her scientific world. And now, all of it felt fragile, as if the very rules she relied upon had been quietly rewritten while she slept. The juxtaposition was dizzying. The secure scientist she had once been, and the haunted observer she had become, teetering on the edge of fascination and fear. Her emotional state mirrored the eerie rhythm of the scans. Sometimes a sense of awe overwhelmed her. This was the human mind, more mysterious and intricate than any textbook had ever admitted. Other times, fear clenched her chest. Could this anomaly be dangerous? Could her probing, her experiments, inadvertently harm Michael? Ethical considerations and professional boundaries battled against the irresistible pull of discovery. She found herself standing at the crossroads of science and morality, her heart pounding as questions multiplied. How far should one go in pursuit of knowledge? At what point does curiosity become intrusion? Emily's sleep became fragmented, haunted by visions of the neural patterns flickering across her mind in the darkness. Shadows of doubt crept in, the whispering of self-reproach mingling with relentless wonder. Was she ready to challenge the very foundation of neuroscience? Could the human mind truly accommodate two consciousnesses? And if so, what did that imply about identity, autonomy, and the essence of self? Each night ended the same way, with her staring at the screen, trembling with the weight of the unknown, feeling simultaneously privileged and powerless to understand what she had uncovered. By the end of her descent, Emily Carter had changed. The lab, once a sanctuary of logic, had become a liminal space, a threshold between what science could explain and what it could only speculate about. Her obsession was no longer merely intellectual, it was existential. She had glimpsed a truth she could not fully grasp, a living contradiction in the form of Michael Hayes' brain. And as she leaned back, eyes wide in the flickering glow of the monitor, one thought reverberated endlessly. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, yet the human mind cannot resist trying. The moment Emily Carter first truly studied Michael Hayes' brain scans, the world outside the lab seemed to fall away. The MRI images, layered with color-coded neural activity, pulsed on the screen like living entities, distinct yet inseparable. One hemisphere flickered in deliberate, almost contemplative bursts, mapping ordinary cognition, reading, remembering, planning. And then, intertwined yet separate, another pattern surged, aware, responsive, as though observing its counterpart from within. It was impossible yet undeniable. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the machinery, a sound that seemed to echo Emily's racing heartbeat. Cinematically, the imagery was almost surreal. Animated visualizations overlaid on the scans made the duality apparent. Two streams of consciousness, dancing within the same gray matter, flickering like parallel worlds inside a experience. The split within Michael was not only neurological, it was profoundly human, visible in fleeting gestures, pauses, and the fragile interplay of thought and self. The narration captures awe and unease in equal measure. There was wonder in witnessing consciousness revealed in such a raw, unprecedented form, yet unease settled deep in Emily's chest. Could this duality exist without consequence? Was Michael safe? Or had the brain unlocked a door that should have remained closed? Every flicker on the MRI reminded her of the fragile line between brilliance and danger, discovery and ethical peril. This was no longer an anomaly to catalog in a journal. It was a living, breathing enigma, defying comprehension and demanding respect. Consultations with colleagues underscored the impossibility. Some suggested neurological misfire, others hypothesized dissociative phenomena. But no explanation satisfied the pattern, the rhythm, the unmistakable dialogue of two minds sharing one body. Each theory chipped away at certainty, leaving only questions, and the haunting recognition that the human brain might hold capacities far beyond current understanding. Emily felt the weight of responsibility acutely. Every observation was laden with potential consequences for Michael's life, and yet to look away was impossible. As the lab lights dimmed late into the evening, Emily remained transfixed by the screen, the pulsating patterns reflecting in her eyes. Outside, the world carried on. Nurses walking briskly down corridors, monitors beeping in steady cadence, the city lights twinkling through the hospital windows. But inside the lab, time had suspended itself. The scan was not merely a picture of the brain. It was a mirror of the unknown, a window into the uncanny, a question that would echo in Emily's mind long after the images faded. And in that moment, she realized with chilling clarity, science had crossed a threshold. The brain had spoken, and what it said could change everything we thought we knew about consciousness. The brilliance of discovery often comes paired with shadows of responsibility. For Michael Hayes, those shadows were heavy and inescapable. His family lived in quiet tension, navigating the delicate balance between love and fear. Who was Michael in any given moment? Was it the man they had always known, or the subtle other presence flickering beneath the surface? Observing, calculating, deciding. At dinner, his daughter's laughter might bring a pause in his eyes, a momentary blankness, before he returned, smiling and nodding, as though nothing had shifted. The ambiguity was wrenching, a silent erosion of certainty that no one could resolve. Dr. Emily Carter faced a different kind of tension, one that weighed on her every decision. Each scan, each observation, was a doorway into a realm no textbook had ever described. She knew that invasive testing could reveal answers, perhaps explaining the dual consciousness, even quantifying it. But at what cost? Every probe risked harm, every experiment a potential breach of trust with a man whose mind was already fragile. Ethics committees, research protocols, and the very code of medical conduct all loomed large. Yet curiosity, that relentless engine of discovery, whispered insistently. How much could she push before the pursuit of knowledge became an intrusion on the human soul? The hospital itself seemed to mirror the tension within Michael and Emily. Quiet hallways echoed with the distant beeping of monitors, footsteps muffled against linoleum floors, conversations hushed behind closed doors. Nurses spoke softly, their faces lined with concern, as they monitored Michael's subtle shifts in awareness.
One evening, Claire, Michael's wife, held his hand in the hospital corridor, whispering words he sometimes didn't seem to hear. The emotional toll of living with dual consciousness was tangible, invisible, yet palpable, and every gesture, every pause, carried weight. Emily watched and wondered if science was prepared for this human cost. She had dedicated her life to understanding the brain in all its complexity. But here was a puzzle that no textbook could fully illuminate. The uncertainty extended beyond theory. It infiltrated the everyday. Michael's family had to navigate the ordinary, work, meals, bedtime routines, through an extraordinary filter of unpredictability. Every smile, every conversation was tinged with the knowledge that part of Michael's mind might be elsewhere, silently observing, silently judging. And still they persisted, clinging to fragments of normalcy, threading their lives together through fragile continuity. The ethical dilemma was mirrored in Emily's reflection late at night. The glowing MRI screen reflected in her eyes, a reminder of the dual responsibility she carried, to science and to humanity, to discovery and to care. She could not ignore the scans, nor could she disregard the human life entwined with them. Each decision, each action, carried consequences that extended beyond the lab, beyond theory, into... All agreed that Michael's case was unique. Here, both streams of thought coexisted fully, aware of one another yet distinct, like two separate observers inhabiting a single vessel. The images on the screen were beautiful, almost haunting. The choreography of electricity in the brain, both mesmerizing and unsettling. Philosophers weighed in, asking questions that science struggled to quantify. If consciousness could divide, what does that mean for identity? Is the self a fixed entity, or a spectrum of overlapping awareness? Could humans, in some undiscovered way, be more fluid than neuroscience currently allows? Emily Carter listened to these discussions, the weight of possibility pressing on her mind. She realized that she was not just observing a medical anomaly. She was witnessing a doorway into the fundamental nature of being, a window into questions that humans had asked for millennia but never answered. At the same time, unease settled in alongside curiosity. The dual consciousness, while intellectually fascinating, was emotionally and ethically challenging. What responsibility did science have when exploring the mind's uncharted territories? Could probing, observing, or intervening cause harm? Michael's very existence had become a mirror reflecting the limitations of human knowledge and the unpredictable consequences of curiosity. Each theory, each model, illuminated part of the puzzle, but also reminded Emily and her colleagues that some phenomena might forever resist full explanation. Audiences, watching through the lens of narrative, are invited to grapple with both awe and discomfort. There is a thrill in imagining a mind that is divisible, a grain that can host multiplicity within singularity. And yet there is a shadow in that vision, a recognition that consciousness, identity, and the essence of self are more fragile, more complex, and more elusive than any textbook or brain scan could reveal. The hum of the MRI, the flicker of the neural diagrams, and Michael's quiet presence all combine to underscore an unsettling truth. Science is powerful, but it is not omnipotent. There are frontiers it can approach, observe, and measure, but not always fully understand. Emily Carter's reflections, and those of the experts around her, crystallize into one persistent, haunting question. If the brain can contain more than one mind, what does that say about the human experience? Are we truly singular, or is consciousness a layered, multifaceted phenomenon that we glimpse only through rare, extraordinary cases? Theories abound, but answers remain tantalizingly out of reach. The mystery lingers, shimmering between awe and fear, reminding all who study it that the limits of science are also the boundaries of imagination and sometimes the human heart. The lab was quiet now. The hum of machines softened into a low, steady rhythm. Dr. Emily Carter sat in the dim glow of the monitor. The memory of Michael Hayes's brain scans etched into her mind like a ghost she could not shake. Weeks, months, perhaps even years had passed since the first shocking flicker of dual consciousness appeared on the screen. Yet the images and the questions they raised remained as vivid as ever. She reflected on the path that had brought her here, the thrill of discovery, the obsession that had pulled her into sleepless nights, and the moral weight of knowing that some answers might come at a human cost. Michael's family, too, had grown accustomed to the strange rhythms of their lives. Claire, his wife, spoke of small victories and quiet resilience, moments when Michael would look at his children and laugh without pause, when his voice carried the warmth they had always known, and when for fleeting periods the dual presence seemed to recede, allowing ordinary life to breathe. Yet, even in those moments, the shadow of the unknown remained, a subtle hesitation, a glance off to the side, a pause in thought that reminded them, and the viewers, that the mystery had not been solved. The human heart, fragile and persistent, persisted alongside the enigma of consciousness. Cinematically, the scenes unfold in reflective intimacy. Sunlight streaming through hospital windows, the gentle rise and fall of a patient's chest, family photographs catching dust motes in the soft glow of evening. Each image, simple yet profound, reinforces the reality beyond the science, the emotional truth of lives lived in tandem with uncertainty. Michael's brain, remarkable and inexplicable, was more than a subject of study. It was a lived experience, a testament to the fragility and resilience